This is by far the most disturbing document that I've seen in the Epstein files so far. I haven't even seen one photo come close to this. The level of rage that I was filled with when I started reading this file. I'm not even gonna get into it. I'm gonna let you guys see for yourself. So this appears as document EFTA 000379002 in data set 8. It's under the 10th and 11th volume. It's the last file of volume 10 and the first file of volume 11. Here's what it says. So it's an email being sent to a victim from what appears to be a federal official or a prosecutor asking a victim some preliminary questions. So question 1 says, this question should be answered in detail by you. Were you trafficked by fraud, force, or coercion? Please explain in detail how the trafficking began and ended. Please take your time and answer using dates, places, others involved to the best of your recollection. If you cannot recall or do not wish to provide further, simply state this in the narrative. Provide any photos, emails, texts, or other digital information which involves your case. So here is the response. I was born into trafficking. I was trafficked beginning at my earliest memory. I do not remember a time that I was not trafficked for. According to birth certificate from blank, my biological parents, I do not recognize them as parents. Blank began to sell me for in the town of blank. There were many men that were brought to their home to have with me. I was taken to many states in the U.S. to sell me. I was forced by threat by blank and Jeffrey Epstein of being killed, bodily harm, and threats of harming other children if I did not have with them and any other people that they sold me to. The rape and trafficking with Jeffrey Epstein happened year blank. I was about blank years old at the time. I was taken to an underground location. I was blindfolded so I would not know exactly where I was at. It was dark, and when we went through the doors, we went downstairs. There was also an elevator in the location. I was kept in a stall. It looked like a horse stall that had short walls on the sides so you could see inside. It wasn't really to keep me and the other little girls inside. It was to make it where we could be viewed. Epstein would walk past each girl, including myself, with a lot of men, and they would judge us. He told me I was fat and ugly, so that's what he called me. Blank. And he said I had to pretend it was him to see if I performed well. He said if I performed well, I could be his girlfriend, then I would be allowed to be upstairs, he called it. He said the girls upstairs were pretty and they were his girlfriends. He then me and said I was evil because I liked it. I couldn't make my body stop feeling, so he said I had to go to the holding place to pray hard enough to be able to be upstairs with the other girls. There were a lot of pictures of naked girls all over the walls. I had to pray hard to be like them, he said. The girls that he said performed well enough went with the line of all of the men and they left. In Virgin Islands, I was blank. They stopped there. I was 17 years old. Blank was blindfolded and taken to an underground location. It had steps that went down. I was by Jeffrey Epstein. There were other men that me. I was kept in a stall so that men could look at me. He said I was an animal and that he was perfect. If I had with him that I wouldn't be such an animal. He said I wanted to be because I wanted to be more like him. This has to be the most disgusting thing that I've ever read in my entire life. I don't even have the words to respond to this. I really honestly I did not know the extent of the abuse. I honestly thought that based on what was shown through the media was that girls came over, they gave him a massage, and he turned around and pleasured himself, and that was the gist of it. This right here, this is probably one of the scariest things that I've read in real life in a court document. The next file goes on to ask some more questions. Most of them are redacted, so I'll kind of keep it brief. They ask what areas were they trafficked to. They said the United States, Kentucky, Tennessee, Texas, Florida. They asked the name of the traffickers and descriptions. They mentioned Jeffrey Epstein in his 60s, and that is EFTA 000379004. I'll add the link to the documents in the description. These documents are in sequence, so the next document is EFTA 000379005. There appears to be a name that's redacted at the top. It says, also, I don't know what they look like now. I'm not sure who they're referring to. may or may not be someone of importance, but the name is redacted. Question 24 says, specific to Mr. Epstein, when, how, and where did you meet? Did he have other men or women with him, and were you forced to have with him and the others? So they respond by saying, I was brought to him by my traffickers blank. He then trafficked me with the men he had with him. Question 25 says, what type of did Mr. Epstein have with you? How often? Was he physically violent? Did he attempt to photograph or video the activity? They respond by saying, I was by Jeffrey Epstein multiple times. He was threatening to harm other children if I didn't do what he said. He had video cameras, he said, and if I didn't do what he said, they would see that I caused the other children to get hurt. Then I would be put in jail. This type of manipulation is straight out of hell. Never read anything like this before. Question 26 reads, did Mr. Epstein have any physical features you can recall that would be identifiable only to him? Moles, scars, tattoos? Not that I remember is how they respond. Question 27, did Mr. Epstein call you any certain names or refer to you by name? For example, sweetie, honey, baby. They respond by saying, fat and ugly. He called some of the children that he chose to go places with him his girlfriend. Question 28 says, have you been arrested in the U.S.? If yes, on what charge? Prosecuted? The response is no. Question 29 says, are you employed? We will not contact your employer unless we cannot locate you for further contact. It appears they respond with their employer's name. Question 30 says, are you willing to take a polygraph administered by a federal agency? They respond by saying yes. This appears to be the end of the preliminary questions, and all I can say is, I'm so sorry that these young children had to experience this type of evil at such a young age, from birth, and then being transferred into the hands of someone like Epstein without any fair chance at life. Kids locked up downstairs in the cellar, bringing certain girls upstairs to be called his girlfriend, which, to be honest, probably seems more abusive and disgusting than being downstairs. I didn't know the extent of the abuse, and now that I see it, I'm glad that I'm going through these files and making these videos. I already felt like these things needed to get exposed, but this level of evil and hatred for other people, there's no way I'm not going to keep flipping every single one of these files upside down.